And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I am down here in Dallas one more day. It is the morning after the red carpet premiere for Nefarious. We'll have plenty of discussion and coverage about that later in the show. Billy Hallowell was working at the red carpet doing interviews for the Christian Broadcasting or for Christian Broadcasting News, CBN, or Christian Broadcasting Network, I should say. He'll be joining us at the bottom of the hour, get his review of the movie as well. Next hour, you'll hear from the writers and directors of the film. Chuck Konzelman and Carrie Solomon, they will be here with us in studio, and we'll have a ton of discussion of the red carpet and who was there and the reaction. We will get to all of that. And most of the show will be about that, because last night is, one of the greatest events I've had a chance to be a part of in my life that didn't involve like a marriage or the birth of a kid. I mean, it was just a fantastic event. We had almost 500 people show up. The reaction was incredible. Beforehand, I got word from the theaters that are giving us the information, by the way, that we are greatly outpacing our competition for pre-sales on April the 14th. The new movies 5 movies are opening now. Remember that day. We're one of them. Originally, it was just going to be 2. Now it's 5. We're blowing everybody else out of the water when it comes to pre-sales, and that's all you guys. So please keep getting your tickets at nefarioutickets.com, nefarioutickets.com. It is making a difference. I was told just last night we added something like 20 some odd more theaters just last night, actually, in reaction to some of these numbers that people are saying. So thank you very much. You guys, I promise you that the movie will reward your faith in it, and we'll talk more about that, though, as the show goes on. Todd and Aaron back there in Des Moines, if you guys don't mind, there's a couple of major events happening that I know people want us to discuss. So if you guys are okay with it, let's get to it. You guys all right with that?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Wisconsin, is off the table. Last night, Wisconsin's Supreme Court election went down, and liberal Milwaukee County Judge Janet Protasewicz crushed her more conservative opponent, Dan Kelly, 55-44. This means all manner of issues are back on the table in Wisconsin, including that state's ban on baby killing and voter ID laws, as well as greenlighting ballot harvesting. Whoa, here's that super cool Trump mugshot T-shirt. Only $36. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, Donald Trump. Trump was arraigned in New York City yesterday on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to conceal another crime, though that crime is never mentioned. Each felony listed is exactly the same, with the date changed for each count. Trump was in Mar-a-Lago last night, where he gave an address to a crowd of supporters.
They want to settle the case, but I want no part of that.
The Biden administration announced another $2.6 billion worth of weapons and equipment to Ukraine. This comes as news of Finland's official entrance into NATO dropped yesterday. In the wake of Billboard Chris getting beat by a tranny in Vancouver right in front of police over the weekend, Canadian politician Kristen Wong-Tam proposed legislation yesterday that would create a form of Sharia law, let's call it dysphoria law, in and around pro-mental illness rallies in the country of Canada.
Firstly, it enables the Attorney General to create a 2S LGBTQI+ community safety zone to prohibit within 100 meters of the property any homophobic, transphobic act of intimidation, threat, offensive threats, offensive remarks, protest, disturbance, and distribution of hate propaganda within the meaning of the criminal code. It also comes with it a penalty of $25,000 if prosecuted successfully.
Here are a few items of good news. Idaho Governor Brad Little finally signed a law passed in that state's legislature that bans beatball surgery and chemical castration for kids. A similar bill just passed the Florida Senate and now heads to the House. In Iowa, that state's House passed a bill that severely restricts teachers' abilities in schools to preach about topics related to the Rainbow Jihad. The bill previously passed the state Senate last month and was originally Governor Kim Reynolds' brainchild. And finally, this.
Hey, yo, this is day 100 of me being a boy.
And listen to this, bro. Today I'm going to the doctor to get checked for prostate cancer. Now, I see you guys all up in my comments, all you cis men, saying I'm making a mockery of men or I'm trying to erase men and I don't even have a prostate. I mean, what's with all the hate, man? This doesn't even affect you. This is my life. Leave me alone. Dudes. There's no need to feel threatened. Us trans men and you cis men, we can work together to uphold the patriarchy.
And that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's Montage brought to you by our friends over at Bonner Private Wines, the outstanding red wines grown from Malbec grapes, about 9,000 feet of altitude, deep in the Andes Mountains. They are absolutely delicious. Just ask Todd. He drinks them by the bottle. Full. And you now can take advantage of these. If you haven't yet, they've made the deal even better. They have the bonus bottle of small batch limited production wine from their exclusive wine cellar. So you get 4 bottles now for 50% off instead of 3. 4 bottles for 50% off. But now they've sweetened the pot. It used to be half off the shipping. Now the shipping is free. How about imported foreign wines that are excellent and you don't pay the shipping freight? You can't beat that. All right. So half off the wines. The shipping is free when you go to BonnerPrivateWines.com/Steve. That's BonnerPrivateWines.com/Steve. Since we are having a bit of a different Wednesday format, no Daniel Horowitz this week, Buy, Sell, or Hold will be in the overtime today for Blaze TV subscribers at blazetv.com/days. Go there to subscribe now so you don't miss it at blazetv.com/days. All right, there's these two stories that are at the top of Aaron's montage are actually interrelated. And I want to spend the bulk of our time here in this segment discussing them and their importance. First and foremost, I didn't have time yesterday with the premiere to get to the indictment and read it myself and go through it. So I thought, let me go to a friend of mine who is a very accomplished criminal defense attorney, very well respected and well known in his community. He's in a blue state, in the bluest part of that state, and he's a hardcore right-winger. So that kind of gives you an idea of where he is at, that he's in a place that is so blue, the criminal defense attorneys are the right-wingers, all right? So this is what he does every day. And I asked him, hey, can you take a break from your full caseload and do us a solid here on the Steve Deace Show? And just read through the indictment as a criminal defense attorney and give us your cursory analysis. I'm just going to read to you what he tweeted or texted to me this morning. The indictment only needs to be enough information to provide fair notice of the charges, so it's sparse, but sufficient to establish the elements of the counts. The discovery will obviously be key to determining the defenses. The language of the statute elevating the crime of falsifying records to a felony, quote, when his intent to defraud includes an intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof, end quote, is interesting on a few levels. First, the repeated course of conduct or payments spread out over time and from different sources can, by itself, be argued to reflect an intent to conceal. Meaning, what would be the other reason you'd be funneling this through different channels? Second, and more importantly, quote, another crime, end quote, is broad, and without doing research on this specifically, I don't know that it would really matter if the other crimes were federal. I don't know if that would knock out state jurisdiction. Could a state prosecution be held for a New York business owner trying to thwart federal laws on, say, immigrations or taxes be permissible? I'm thinking yes, if that intent could be demonstrated. This gets murky, however, when you're talking about federal election laws. I have no idea what records are subject for review under those laws. The statement issued by the prosecutor is damaging, if true, on the Cohen payments claimed under a retainer that wasn't, especially when many were made in 2017 while he was in office and purportedly labeled for legal expenses under a retainer. I think they're laying out a decent case for the second-degree misdemeanor falsification of records. The weakness in the case on a quick review is the claims that he was trying to avoid, quote, looking bad, end quote. So what? That's not a crime, in my view. I don't practice federal cases, but to me, it's all going to be about intent to fraudulently mask records that would otherwise be subject to federal campaign disclosures to prevent discovery of their actual purpose, or if they violated the campaign laws themselves. And if true, my 2 cents opinion is that would not have to be something that could only be prosecuted in federal court. So that is from someone who does this every day and is very, very successful. Criminal defense. I'm not going to go into any further analysis of what my buddy wrote me there or ask Todd and Aaron to give their take because it's completely, I did it for you. It's the professional thing to do in my place to try to get a professional legal opinion on this. And I want to thank my buddy for doing it as a last-minute favor to me. I just wanted to make sure that we provided some of that for you here on the show. And now I will quote the great prophet, The Rock. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is an illegal case. It's a political one. We are not a nation of laws, and we never have been. We're a nation of political will, and we always will be. Here's the case. I'm going to lay it out for you right now, point blank. In 2020, 12% of Manhattan voted for Donald Trump. 12%. It is from that pool of people that this grand jury was assembled. Stormy Daniels could have walked in and said, I did not have sex with that orange man, Donald Trump. I never took money to lie, not a single time. Waved a bony finger, in fact. Wouldn't have mattered. They were indicting. Period. Similarly, much of the legal analysis that you are watching on cable news right now or reading about in the blogosphere, I think is completely and totally irrelevant, including the legal analysis, which I'm sure is excellent, knowing the individual who gave it to me, that I read you. I only did it and asked for it because it's the responsible thing to do. And some of you may be intellectually curious, and I was. But this isn't a legal proceeding. It's a political one. And it's from that same 12% of people, that's it, in Manhattan that voted for Trump, that the grand jury was assembled, that the criminal jury will be assembled as well. They are going to convict him. I'd be stunned. It would take the same kind of act of God that allowed Donald Trump to win by a total of 78,000, not in each state, a total of 78,000 votes in 4 states. It would take that level of an act to avoid a conviction here. The conviction's already cooked. It's already happening. And everything that they discuss here legally from this time forward, I believe, is really positioning for a future appellate court to step in and provide some sanity here. You have to remember also, we have been dealing with a political opponent here that has for a generation been practicing the following stratagem. Screw the Constitution, screw the law, do whatever we want to these people, and just dare them to go find a court later on to overturn it. That's been their strategy. Knowingly doing things. Barack Obama was the victim of more unanimous decisions against him in the history by one Supreme Court in the history of the U.S. presidency. No president had more unanimous decisions go against him before the Supreme Court than Barack Obama did. Didn't matter. Just keep doing it. Not out of ink. Phone still connected. Got a pen and a phone. Keep rolling. Roll Tide. I mean, this is a movement. We're not. We're an industry. And so because of that, Donald Trump wouldn't take the offer from Ron DeSantis and then dare Republican governors around the country to say, emulate that and defend me. Defend your leader. Put yourself on the record. By God, if we're going to have a hero cult, let's actually have one. I'm in favor of a hero cult, actually. This isn't one. This is just a grift. It's just, let's sell T-shirts, raise money off boomer grandmothers. Buy less Benson and Hedges. As you're putting down your last pack of cancer sticks in the nursing home, give it to Trump instead. That's what we're doing now. Let's have a real hero cult. Let's put everybody on the line. All right, I got my junior down here in Florida. He's got my back. What about you, McMaster in South Carolina? You, Reynolds in Iowa? Let's put everybody on the record. All, 28, 29 Republican governors? I'm coming to your state with a rally. Dare you to turn me over to be extradited. Let's find out what everybody thinks. That's a loyalty test I can get behind, because now your self-interest and my self-interest align. I want to push back on this. I want to punish it. I want to show we do not accept the premise of this, and we will defend our people. Instead, we're going to sell T-shirts and we're going to raise money. Folks, I think any polling you're looking at for the 2024 Republican primary, throw it in the trash. You don't know right now Donald Trump will be on a ballot. This is just the first one. There's like 4 more of these, I believe. And they're all going to indict him. They're all going to charge him. I think you should consider that there will be states in this country that he can't get on the ballot. And so therefore would even have enough delegates at the end of the primary to win the nomination. Stuff like that. Gag orders in multiple states, which could then be construed to, when he starts riffing at his rallies, did he violate that gag order? Well, now he's in contempt of court, so let's go ahead and let's nab him. He violated the gag order. He's in contempt. And there are some of you acting like this is a new day. No, it's not. Ask the Trump supporters that were nonviolent and have been sitting to rot and left to rot in jail cells for the last 3 years with no jurisprudence, no habeas corpus, just indefinitely detained like they're in Pyongyang. The social compact is broken, and I cannot think of a better encapsulation. It's like all we're doing to now, it's like every day, it's like, what's the microcosm for the era today? We're just getting summations, summary judgments of this era of America. Every day, we're just getting summary judgments. That's a microcosm, that's a microcosm, that's a microcosm. Here's one. This morning, many of you got up and you were given the siren song and gave a lot of clicks and made a lot of money for people who told you that this will lead to Donald Trump getting a landslide election in 2024. And they told you that the morning after a must-win state known as Wisconsin put a George Soros acolyte on the state Supreme Court by popular vote. By popular vote. They voted for it. I'm sorry, that's not reality. It's just not. And I can't think of, today's microcosm of the last generation of America's political duopoly. Democrats put an open communist on the state Supreme Court in a swing state that we have to win. Republicans are going to sell T-shirts. There you go. That's the whole damn thing right there. Okay. There may never be a better microcosm than that. George Ukraine Soros now controls the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. By the way, the first state to actually reopen during COVID was Wisconsin. And it did so by state Supreme Court decree. That won't be the case moving forward. So George Ukraine Soros controls the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, a must-win swing state. But we're going to sell T-shirts. It doesn't get any clearer than that. That's the predicament that we are in. And hell, man, I don't care if the dude sells 10 million T-shirts and keeps all the money himself and never reports it to the IRS. If we're actually fighting back. But we're not. Because he's not a disruptor of the system. He's a disruptor of norms. He's a disruptor of decorum. Those are different things. But since the right largely exists in a mediascape and not in actual muscle on the ground in the culture war, the right largely exists in memes, largely exists in talking points and not in outcomes. Hell, we used to care about elections. Now we don't even care about those. Since Trump won in 2016 by the greatest, thinnest of margins and miracles, Republicans are a net -8 in governors, -3 in senators, -22 in congressmen. And so what's everybody's plan? Rerun everybody that's already just lost the last few elections. Just run them all back. That's the master plan. And if you think that's a crap plan, a turd plan, you just hate America, Steve. All right, man. YOLO. Do what you got to do. Clearly, the political system is not a successful way to fight the culture war. So I guess I'll just do something different. Maybe we'll make a movie, try another tactic to reach people. Because it's very clear that the majority of the American people are not going to buy technocratic, soulless Republican Party of the Mitch McConnells of the world, or let's just Cheeto Jesus saves and sells T-shirts and do rallies. They're not buying it. They're not going to buy it. Someone needs to tell you, I'll do it. They're not buying this. They haven't bought it in the last 3 cycles. They're not buying it in the next one. And the irony of the morning after Wisconsin State Supreme Court basically just becomes an entry point for George, the cancer known as George Soros, and we're going to sell T-shirts. I just don't know what else to say other than that. Because it says it all. At least we used to care about elections on the right. We gave up caring about policy outcomes pretty much after the contract with America. We don't care. I got people, you guys are loading up my inbox telling me the governor of Florida, who's just laying waste to the Democrat agenda, is a rhino. So we don't care about policy on the right. We don't care. We haven't cared in a long time. But at least we used to care about elections. We don't care about that anymore either. So, you're going to get your ass kicked, like it's getting kicked right now. And I'm not your mom. I'm your dad. And my job is to tell you the truth, and so I will. This is a loser. This won't win. This level of commitment, can we get a donation? Can we get a grift? Can I get a platform? Can I sell a rally? Can will you buy my T-shirt? Won't win. We're an industry. They're a movement. Movements always crush industries. Conviction always wins. And now he has accepted the premise that this is a viable proceeding. He has shown up, let himself be fingerprinted, played along. All right. So we'll play out their script. How do you think it'll go? Gee, I don't know. It's their jury, their judge, their attorney, their prosecutor, their media, their state. By golly, it's a mystery wrapped inside a puzzle, shrouded by an enigma. I'm on the edge of my seat wondering how this will all play itself out. This is the greatest four-dimensional chess of all time. Giving them everything they want. Letting them put the fans in the stands, name the referees for the game, and even pick your players. Brilliant. Send your $50, buy your T-shirt. Meanwhile, Wisconsin just became a lawless state, and you have to win that state to win the next election. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Yeah, let's talk about that movement. You're talking about their passion, their sense of purpose. Why, as you said, Steve, there's more indictments coming. Why this one first? Why this one out of the gate? When so many people legally, even Vox was out there today saying, yeah, there's some legal problems with this one. Why this one first? I think, I'm surprised no one else is talking about it, but listen, to me it's obvious, and it speaks to what Steve said about their sense of purpose, how dug in they are, their long memory. This is their Bill Clinton. This is their payback.
Yes. That's why I paraphrased that. Yeah. Yes, it's just like when Aaron said they had to have that we had the high ground on the riots and they had to turn January 6th now into an insurrection so they could have the high ground on that too. This is payback for I will not have sex with that woman. That's why I made a reference to that in my opening. You're correct.
It's all which speaks to it's all politics. We see all these women, all these Karens right now. Where is your feminism when it comes to tranny madness? Well, back then, why did they all defend Hillary or Bill Clinton, even though they should have been hating him because of what he was doing to Hillary? Because in both cases, here's the point. More than anything, they hate us. And they never forget it. And it's why even if this is legally suspect, they've been waiting for this for so long. The young women back then and the 30-somethings are now the women who are in control of far more of the levers of power, and they're going to make sure that they are heard. And here to Steve's point about selling T-shirts here. Why is Trump leaning into this? Because he's just like Bill Clinton too. He wants to go out there and give you his version of depends on what the definition of is. We've seen this before. It just goes to how thin. This is not new. We've been doing reindeer games for a very, very long time on the right. We have not been serious. I was a young man in my 20s, and I was warning about the stupidity of all of that involving Bill Clinton, because it was setting a precedent of unseriousness on both sides. Well, hey, now we got that on steroids. Ours goes up to 11 now. This is their Bill Clinton. And whereas we will get distracted by shiny things, they won't. Their memory is nefarious. Their memory is demonic. That's one thing about Steve's movie. It ties in so well. The long game over millennia that Nefarious plays. It's no surprise that the modern day left has a memory that's just that long.
Well, on that note, I bring you both glad tidings of great joy. Do you know when the next hearing for Donald Trump is in this case? Do you guys know?
I do not.
I don't know. No.
It is December 4th.
December?
Do you know what that means? How many months away is December 4th? Yesterday was April 4th. By my math, my homeschool math, that's 8 months, right?
That's 8 months.
April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That's 8 months. I have 8 fingers held up here. I bring you glad tidings of great joy. That's 8 months of Trump sucking the oxygen out of the room. 8 months of BS leaks. 8 months of whoever the next Stormy Daniels is. 8 months of the next cable news breathless coverage. 8 months of whoever the next Michael Avenatti is. This is not by mistake.
No, and it's only the first one.
Get ready. And it's only the first one. Yeah, there's that as well. Get ready. It's the same BS that we got to witness. We had the privilege of witnessing for all but 1 year of Trump's presidency. And really the year preceding that during the primaries as well. Scheduling this not for another 8 months, but totally by design. It allows him to completely suck the oxygen out of the room. Well, Russia's border with NATO just doubled. We've got the dollar as the trading currency dropping like flies. Malaysia, Brazil, talking about an Asian reserve currency now as well, something like that. We've got real problems, guys. Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, just completely off the board if we're being honest with ourselves. But no. $36. Can you spare? Hey, Steve, you're going to be making a really cool movie here. I'm sure you could spare. Could you spare $90? It would be about $102, $108 or something like that. Could you get all three of us those really cool T-shirts? That would be super cool.
I'll tell you right now, if he would have taken the offer to not be extradited and dug in his heels and fought this on the merits, I'd bought 10,000 of those shirts if I could afford it. I'd buy 10,000 of them. Finally, we're doing something meaningful here. Finally, we're doing something. Because I don't care about the name on the back of the jersey. Just the name on the front. I don't care whose name's on the back. Yeah, just trying to preserve what's the last best hope for human flourishing left east of Eden. That's all I care about. With kids that are entering into adulthood, getting married, getting ready to have grandkids, graduating from high school, that's all I care about. And to that end, I know this, man. Just selling T-shirts and raising, squeeze another $50 from boomer grandmothers in nursing homes. Just after they're done watching Fox and Friends, up against let's put George Soros and drag on a key swing state's Supreme Court. I just know that's not good. That ain't gonna do it. That ain't gonna do it. That I know. May not know what will. Sure as hell know what won't. Last night's red carpet premiere was incredible. Billy Hallowell is here in town. He came to the event. We look forward to talking and reconnecting with our old friend when we come back. So do we have any recent experience with venerable medications that would have come in handy during an emergency situation that suddenly the system decided you couldn't have access to, you couldn't have? They were suddenly dangerous after giving them Nobel Prizes. Anything come to mind? No, but just in case that were to happen, maybe in the future, make sure you get a hold of our friends over at Jase Medical, Jase. J as in jump at this right now. Don't hesitate. Have this in your medicine cabinet now for the next time they decide, yeah, now it's amoxicillin that's dangerous. Now it's doxycycline that you really shouldn't use anymore. Not coincidentally, right when we're trying to bring an experimental product to market that we won't lawfully be able to if there are other medications that work. No, again, coincidentally. Make sure at jasemedical.com, you go there right now, get set up with the Jase case, venerable antibiotics that you will have just in case. Or you never know. Sometimes the medical supply just gets let's go Brandon, like we had an amoxicillin shortage recently. All right. jasemedical.com. Use the promo code DACE for a discount at checkout. jasemedical.com. Promo code DACE at checkout. Well, he is an old friend of the show. He's actually an old friend of this place. Used to work out of this place. Billy Hallowell is here with us now from CBN. It is good to see you, brother. You came all the way from NYC.
It is good to see you.
Yeah, I mean, to come to our little shindig last night. Thank you very much, man. How are you?
First of all, the event was amazing. The film is amazing. I'm doing well.
So let's start with the event, because you asked me how I thought it went, and I had said to you, I mean, I've never been to a movie premiere before, never held one before, so I have nothing to compare it to, you know. So, I mean, I thought it was amazing, but I don't know what else to compare it to. So you've done your share of these. What do you think?
Well, first of all, you filled numerous theaters, which doesn't happen a lot.
We had almost 500 people come last night.
That is a stunning number of people, right? I've been to ones in LA, I've been to ones in Nashville. This was incredible. And I think the thing that was interesting to me was the energy that people had. People were really excited about this film. It's different. It attacks the issue of evil, right? It's different from any other Christian film that I've seen, hands down. And I'm not just saying it because we're friends. Yep. It is incredibly different. And I think people felt that going into it. And sitting in, I already watched it before going, right? And then sitting in and watching it for a second time and seeing the energy during it was pretty exciting too.
The reaction, I can't get enough of watching the movie with people. You know, I don't watch it or stuff anymore on my own. It's become like a Star Wars or original Star Trek movie to me. I know all the lines by heart, and I can just mouth them, you know. But I love sitting in a room or a theater and getting people's reaction to it, because the film is so subversive. No spoilers, obviously. The film is so subversive that I am not worried about. This is like the first time I've ever been a part of something that I have aggressively told people how great I thought it was. I typically try to knock expectations down because I'd rather exceed low expectations than disappoint high ones. I'm not worried about blowing expectations out of the water, though, because the film is subversive. About a third of the way through, the movie is going to take a turn that you probably didn't anticipate as you're just getting into the rhythm of the movie. And the movie takes a turn, and that's actually when the real movie starts. The first third is, hey, is this like Silence of the Lambs, Seven, Primal Fear? Is he sane? Is he not? Is this real? Is he not? You know. And then about a third of the movie, the mask comes off, and the real nefarious film begins. And I think that the way that Carrie and Chuck, who will be here later today, our filmmakers, the way they imported that into the script makes it almost impossible to disappoint expectations, because the film pulls the rug out from underneath you in the middle of it to alter your expectations as you're watching it in a way.
Well, it makes you you're sitting there and you're trying to understand what is going on here. Do I trust this person? Do I not? I don't want to give too much away, but Do I think he's telling me the truth? Do I not? And what about this other guy? Like, what's his deal? And you're trying to figure it out. And what you guys pulled off with this that is so incredible, it's very hard to watch a movie with only two people interacting. That's why nobody really does it. There's very few movies that do it. And this movie pulls it off because the entire time you're drawn into that conversation. You want to know the truth, right? And that's what the film is all about, ironically, is truth.
Yeah.
And so as you're trying to navigate that within these characters, for me, what I found so interesting was I kept thinking beyond just that conversation. What is our culture like? What is going on around us? It just, the discussion of evil and goodness kept bringing me back to that. And I would imagine, that's the intended effect of it. It's very, very powerful.
As you talked to people before and then after, what kind of stood out to you?
Well, a number of things stood out to me. First of all, let's talk about things on set, right? Because these are like the behind the scenes things, right? the way that people talked about the set of the film, and to me, that's a really important thing, just as a journalist, somebody who kind of looks like, how did this get put together? These are Christians, right, who wrote it, put it together. What went on the set? And everybody talked about the set being different from anything they'd experienced before. There was prayer on the set. There was, there were exorcists on the set, faith leaders, people coming in.
We had exorcists there last night.
I talked to a couple of them. Yeah. One of them I had just interviewed. It was funny. We ran into each other. I was like, I know you from Zoom last week. But that was a really different element. And they said it set a totally different tone for how the project went, right? Like while they were making it. So that was interesting. The other part of it, every single person who was a part of this film, and I talked to people who ran the cameras, everything, producers, line producers, they were all impacted by it. They all felt, usually when you ask questions, and you know this, of people involved in a movie, they're very surface answers. Like, I hope people are entertained. Everybody really felt there was something deeper here, and they spoke about that. And that resonated with me because I thought, man, even the people who weren't in front of the camera are feeling the depth of it.
That means a lot, man. Thank you. And Sean Patrick Flannery and Jordan Belfi sat in the seats that you're in yesterday. And I listened to them each tell us about what they loved most about the film and their experience making it. And we've had what I think, Billy, is a false debate in the church for about the last generation between truth and grace. And this false choice that we cannot love our neighbor as we love ourselves, and yet confront them with the uncomfortable truth of the human condition and the world in which we live in at the same time. And so let's get rid of that part and just focus on kindness and generosity. And loving kindness and not justice or truth, as if they go together. And, Jordan talked about the experience where, the first day of filming, his firstborn son gets born suddenly, and there were pastors on set. People came around him and his wife. They were there to comfort them and be for them, right? So there is the grace of God that Jordan was shown as an actor. Sean, his position was, it's the most important movie I've ever done. It's got the most important message, and I think it's a message that people need to hear. So what stuck out to him is the truth of the film. And it reminded me of what John writes, for the law came through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. We have pitted these things, truth and grace, in the Christian, particularly in the evangelical church. I can only speak to that natively because that's my habitat.
Right. Yeah, same for me.
We have pitted them against one another. As if your only choice is, I'm going to be a hard, rigid church of truth that when the kids grow up, they don't want to come back to, they don't return to. All right. So we're not baptizing anybody new, or I'm counting how many new people I'm baptizing, not discipling a damn one of them. And just who knows, I got them in the doors.
It's just nominal faith.
Yeah. I made them feel bad about their sins once, accidentally almost. And now they're just part of a Rotary Club. That there's nothing between these two tent poles. And for Jordan and Sean to come in here yesterday and say, hey, you know what was special to me about being a part of this production? The grace you guys showed me at a challenging time in my family. You guys took me in as a member of your family. You guys loved on me. You guys were there. You supported us as a family. That made a huge impression on us. Bam.
Yeah, Jordan this morning, I saw him this morning and interviewed him, and he talked about that. He said that you guys, the whole production came around him. He felt love. He felt peace. Because that's got to be hard. You go to film a movie, and I'm sure everyone's panicking because it's like one of your lead actors just had a baby, and he wants to be with his baby. He wants to be there. But he just talked about having peace because of showing that love. Part of it is a distortion of love, right? Like culture has so distorted love that now the church is embracing the distorted version of love and acting like, that's part of the problem. And yet when you show that authentic, real love, like we're talking about here, that's what changes people. That's what changes a culture, right?
Exactly. And then you have Sean, a little bit older, a little bit more settled probably in his belief system. He's like, I just wanted to fire a bazooka across the bow of the culture because I'm scared as hell of what's going on out there.
It's insane.
And I think that, though it's not, we have to stop pitting these two instincts against one another, and they're part of a complementarian relationship. All right, that we show love to tell truth, and we tell the truth as a means of showing love. Sometimes people need to hear that's a terrible idea.
Right.
That would be beyond stupid to do that. Okay. Sometimes people need to hear that.
Well, when Jesus says love God, love others, right? He's distilling the law down into these two things. Everybody loves the love others part, right?
Right.
The love God part, like, why do you love God? You love God when you love God, you align with his truth, right? You're putting him first, which means whatever you think or feel or whatever you want to do, it may not be a good thing. It may not fall within God's will. So you love God, you put that first, and then you love others. If you skip that first part, you end up in the messed up culture that we have right now, where love doesn't even mean anything anymore.
Right.
You know, it's insane. You can't really have, and I mean, we've talked this to death, and we need to keep doing it because people aren't getting it. You cannot have love without truth. I mean, if there's absent of truth, there is no love. And I think right now we're watching this unfold in our culture. And what I loved about the film was that you're addressing the other part of this, which is evil, right? When you walk around throwing the word love around without truth, you end up with evil that's masquerading as goodness.
Right.
And you confront that head on and make people think, well, if there's a God...
The wolves dress up like the sheep.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's a challenging thing. If you're an atheist and you watch your film, if you're a Christian and you watch your film, you walk away with the same question. If there is more, what does that mean for me? What am I doing? Am I aligned with the right side? I have to pick a side, right? Mm-hmm. So that's really what I love about it.
The film, I've described it as a 104-minute provoking. It is just it just provokes you all the way through. I mean, the opening scene, without spoiling it, provokes you right away. Oh, this is not going to be your typical Christian movie. Right away, send a message. It provokes the believer. Do you understand this? We've heard of the woke. Are you awake, though, to what is actually going on around us? It certainly provokes many times unbelievers as well. And I that leads me to the other thing I wanted to talk to you about today, the state overall of faith-based filmmaking. And when I went and saw Jesus Revolution, which I absolutely loved the movie.
Great film.
Here's my favorite scene, and I know it's going to sound weird. When they dropped LSD from the crop duster at the Timothy Leary Janis Joplin concert. But here's why. Here's why, though. Later on, when you see Greg Laurie, who is taking the LSD, in the movie, him and his future wife are taking it. When you see them get converted later in the film, it means something now.
Absolutely.
It's not cheesy now.
Right.
It wasn't, hey, I went through a really bad period in my life. We don't want to possibly explain it because it might glorify sin. And then I go out into some wooden area and ask Jesus into my heart and we all cringe. I mean, I literally put in my contract with Chuck and Carrie, no cheesy conversion scenes. Okay. I mean, but when you see Greg Laurie get converted, you're moved now. Because you witnessed where he was. You saw his future sister-in-law nearly OD and commit suicide. You see the dysfunction of his family. I think the same team did I Can Only Imagine. See the same thing there, the dysfunction of that family. It lets us know the stakes we're playing for here. It doesn't make this seem cheesy or trite, but real. And the scriptures are real. They do not hide. They're not salacious necessarily or gratuitous, but they do not attempt to shield you or hide you from the realities of human nature on any level. There's a lot of reality show stuff going on, Genesis to Revelation, and that doesn't skirt it. It doesn't try to water it down and make it G-rated for you. And so I love the idea that we are now giving ourselves permission to say, let's tell a real story, not the nice story, but a real story, because when redemption comes at the end, now it's more impactful. Now it feels more real to me.
Well, that's the thing. And I think audiences, and I'm speaking to the audience here, and we're part of that audience, there's a responsibility on the audience, because I do think the fear that a lot of filmmakers have is the Christian audience is going to react badly if ...
Right.
We put this real thing in. We're seeing films do it more. Your film does it. Jesus Revolution does it. And we need to see more of it because we're all human beings. All of us have a difficult family member or more than one. We all have struggles. We've all made mistakes. There are people sinning in our families. There are all sorts of families dealing with all the issues that we talk about in their lives. And if we're not talking about that, how are we relating to people? So I think the audience does need to recognize that and see that as well, that there's a reason why that happens. And I think, look, Christian filmmaking gets a lot of hits from people. It's growing, it's learning. Hollywood didn't really let Christians in for a long time, and Christians walked away from Hollywood for a long time. And so now there's a catching up to do. And I think we've really seen that. Your film advances that incredibly, and it's exciting to see. It's important, though, like that we're real. We've got to be real.
So we've done, we think now, we're spending every dime we have in our marketing budget right now. We have... I think we've made the best movie we could have made for the resources and the period of time that we had to make it, and the challenges we had, which will make one heck of a documentary one day to even get to last night's event. All right. But we're now at the uncomfortable stage, though, where soon it will go to the voters. You have made your case. You have run your ads, given your speeches. You've done the best campaign you can do, and it will go to the voters. I need you to counsel me now, all right? Because my idol is competitiveness. I am a terrible, like disgustingly dreadful loser, all right? And so I told everybody last night, 2 weeks from now, when I'm poring over every box office return and not satisfied, remind me of how much I enjoyed last night, because otherwise I'll become a terrible human to be around. All right. So I've never gone through this process. You've covered it quite a bit. What pointers would you give for me to not fall into a depressive stupor when reality hits of what the world is like out there?
You know, I can say with confidence that you and your team, because I've seen it, you know, and I've seen you kind of walk through this, you've done every single thing God called you to do on this, right? He called you to it. You guys did it. You pushed through when things are difficult. You are, as you said, spending every dime that you have to get it out there. At the end of the day, when push comes to shove, there's a release date. That is your date. And I think you really just have to take it to prayer on that day and really say, God, I did what you asked me to do. Do what you're going to do with it. And that is such a challenging thing. You write books, you know this with a book, right? You're kicking yourself. You're like, why are there not more selling? Why? And I've really brought myself to a place of, you know what, God, I know I did it all. And when I know I did that, I know this is like the Christianese answer, but it really, for me, brings me a lot of peace. It's like, I'm going to let this go and let God do with it what he's going to do. And that's all you can really do. I think that a film is unique too, in that you have the box office release, and that's the important thing. But it lives on, right? Yeah. And it has other lives after, and there's streaming, and there's other things. So this is going to be something that has so many iterations. I'm so excited for you to kind of watch you journey through it, and really impact lives and hearts, because that's what it's going to do.
Well, it was exciting to have you here in person for a change, and it's good to see you.
I know. This is amazing to be here.
Yeah, and I think I figured it out. This morning I woke up and I said, last night is the end of the race. We got to the end.
Yes, you did it.
We got it. We got to the premiere. We showed it to our peers, our family, the people we respect or we want to earn the respect of. And here's the best we did with what God called us to do. And the feedback we got was overwhelmingly positive. And so that's all we can control.
That's all you can control.
And now what happens is the uncertainty it faces out there in the general public, that getting to last night was the win.
Yeah,
actually.
And you did it, and you guys pushed on. I mean, it's a miracle to get a movie made. And I always say this to people because I've covered a ton of movies. I worked at PureFlix for years. You know, it is, when you see what it takes to get a movie made, everyone just shows up and watches it and claps and enjoys it. They have no idea the millions of dollars, the difficulty, the struggle. And so you guys have done that, and that's a miracle in itself. And judging by last night, I think you're going to see a lot of lives change, a lot of hearts impacted. I do.
Well, good to see you, brother. Don't hesitate to give us a review.
I'm going to give you a great review.
All right. Thank you. Good to see you. All right. When we come back for hour two, the guys who are really the masterminds of this movie that are coming out on April the 14th, Carrie Solomon and Chuck Konzelman, the writers and the directors of Nefarious. They will join us right here in the studio here at The Blaze in Dallas. Next. Stay tuned. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here in Dallas, heading home this afternoon following the show back to Des Moines. I will be back there in our studios at home base tomorrow, where Todd and Aaron still are. They will get their own red carpet premiere. We're doing another one for all of our Iowa friends and family. That's coming up Wednesday, April the 12th. So are you guys looking forward to that, by the way? I didn't even bother to ask you.
It's locked in, and on my spring schedule, as you know, Steve, it's normally pretty chaotic. I have had this flag planted on the calendar for a long time.
I'm actually going to clean up for once. Wear a button-down shirt, maybe a tie, But yeah, it's going to be It's going to be fun. I mean, I saw that venue y'all were at last night. That looked sweet. I don't know if the backstage area was it lit in green light as well for the premiere?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, Cinemark, man, went next level with all that. They worked phenomenal, and our setup team with the movie, everybody there did a great job. I mean, it was first class, man, all the way, first class all the way. So you guys will get a little bit of a different version of that. You can come on in, Chuck. Have a seat. You'll get a little bit of a different version of that coming up in Des Moines next week. Looking forward to that. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox, steve@stevedeace.com. Actually, don't email me right now. We just did an email server migration here at The Blaze. I don't know why. Mine is the only one that ended up getting 72,000 emails into its inbox, okay? Actually, I think I know why. I'm pretty confident I know why. All right, I see you working, okay? But so it might be a minute before I get to your note if you try sending me one. You can also find me on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. And then don't forget to look for us as well over on Truth Social at Real Steve Deace there. For those of you that tune in via the podcast, we appreciate each and every one of you. You're a big part of our audience. Don't forget, leave us a 5-star review if you like it. Now, if you don't like it, we wouldn't ask you to lie. Of course. What if you kind of like it? Well, we would totally ask you to exaggerate. All right. So no 3-star reviews. Only want 1s and 5s. 1s and 5s. That's all we want. We don't really care what the ratio is. Just we're looking for extreme reactions to this show. All right. So thank you for all of you that have left us 5-star reviews. Hit subscribe and follow for us as well if you have yet to do that. This portion of the show brought to you by My Patriot Supply. If you've seen the latest OPEC numbers, now they're going to cut production down as well. Gas prices will go up even higher. The Let's Go Branding continues. Make sure you are ready for if and when this hits the food supply. And that's where you can get their 3-month emergency food kit. That's over 2,000 plus calories that you need per day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, even drinks and snacks that you will have that stays good for well over 20 years with proper storage. And right now, you can save $200 on each kit that your family needs. Not just $200 off the total bill, $200 off each kit your family needs and free shipping too. And free shipping when you go to mypatriotsupply.com. Again, head over to mypatriotsupply.com. And now we welcome in the masterminds of the movie. Move those mics a little bit closer, you guys, if you don't mind. They're a little more directional. Carrie Solomon and Chuck Konzelman are here. They are the writers and the directors of Nefarious, hitting theaters on April the 14th. The hand-to-hand combat for screens continues. So if you want to help us show our strength to the movie theater chains around the country, get your tickets right now at nefarioustickets.com. That's nefarioustickets.com. And I've seen some of the early numbers you guys are showing out, making a big difference. Can't thank all of you enough at nefarioustickets.com. And so, gentlemen, we made it to the end. For a long time, it did not feel like we were going to get here. I can think of off the top of my head at least 3 or 4 times that it looked like we were dead in the water, right?
Yeah. Only 3 or 4? I thought you had a better memory than that.
Maybe those are the only ones I've chosen to remember.
Oh, my goodness.
But I was just talking with a guy that all 3 of us have known for a long time, Billy Hallowell over at CBN. And I've never done a movie premiere, never been to one, so I had nothing to compare it to. He said it's one of the most impressive he's ever seen in terms of the setup, the amount of turnout, and the energy after viewing the movie. And I was talking to him. How do I get to a point? Because I am a miserable idolater when it comes to competitiveness. I hate losing. I am from the Ricky Bobby school of life. Second place is the first loser in all things. Okay, so everything's pass fail to me. And he was, and we finally came to the conclusion that getting to last night is the win. Getting to the part that we could bring this to our peer group, people we respect, people whose respect we still want to earn, our friends and our family members, and letting them sit with us and sit with them and enjoy the fruits of our labors over the last almost 3 years to get to this point. That's the win. And that's all we could control. We did what God wanted us to do. We made the best movie we could make. And now, what happens from here is uncertain and we don't have control over, but we earned the respect and applause of our peer group whose opinions matter to us more than anybody else. And in the end, other than God's, of course. And so maybe that's the win, was getting to last night. Thoughts?
Amen. I mean, it's a long journey and it's been daily struggle, hand-to-hand combat with the adversary. Mm-hmm. But so we know we doing the right thing and excited about it. I mean, last night was off the hook. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. And, to have a reaction when you have 500 or 700, 800 people watching a movie, there's going to be some people that don't like it, some people that hate it, some people that love it. Every single person that we interacted with and the people around them, they loved the movie. Mm-hmm. So I think you're right. I think that last night was the end of our run. And I think from here, the Lord has got to take it, and I think He's going to do it. I think He's going to do a miracle. He's going to use it because it's anointed.
We got the kid on the bike. We pushed him along the street. Now it's time to let go and watch him sink or swim. That's just the way. When you watch it, it's not like you're not emotionally invested, but it's up to them now, and it's up to the movie and what the Lord does with it now. We even had our. You may have talked with it already because we didn't hear the beginning. We had our last gasp of direct demonic diabolical activity the other night, mm-hmm. which was interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe we do.
I had an exorcism at 3:00 in the morning when I came back to the hotel. The exorcist was literally in the hallway, and we ended up talking. Father Carlos Martins.
Yep. From the Exorcist Files podcast.
Yeah. And what was amazing was he was telling us that when we were interviewing him, our team was interviewing him, the lights in the room started to flicker, which meant that we couldn't film for obvious reasons.
All of the equipment was malfunctioning.
Right.
The card went bad.
The sound mixer died out of nowhere.
Everything went bad. So yeah, he now mind you, he's on the 5th floor for your listeners. He's on the 5th floor of a hospitality suite, and he says, "Okay, I know what's going on." So he positions himself with his back to the French doors. The French doors go out to the 5th story air. You know, it's a straight drop, and he faces the room, and he starts doing. He does the rite of exorcism of place, and he's full bore Latin. I mean, this is old school Catholic. You know. Not holding the exorcist.
1 second, Todd. Contain yourself back there in Des Moines. All right, contain yourself. Go ahead.
He's not holding a Benedictine crucifix, but he is going through the rite. He's reading the rite, and suddenly, as he reports it, he says he has a woman's voice from his just to behind his right ear. Now, there's no room for a human being to be there,
and she's chanting,
and she's speaking and chanting, and continues to be annoying until he reaches a part of the rite which commands, bow now before the great and terrible name of Jesus. And at which point the voice ceased and he was troubled no more.
And the lights stopped flickering. Everything works. Now, you can say coincidence, but we all know that there's no such thing as coincidence with God, first of all, and second of all, with electronic devices.
Yeah, we've had 3 years. It'll be 3 years in June when we first met to storyboard this movie. We've had 3 years of coincidences. By the way, Amy reminded me, my wife reminded me, today's our wedding anniversary. So there's a lot going on right now. It's our 26th wedding anniversary. It's also today is the anniversary of the day that we took our kids to go see God's Not Dead in the theaters.
Wow.
It was on this date in 2014. So it was
Crazy.
It was 9 years ago that we went and saw God's Not Dead in the theaters. And as I was explaining to Billy Hallowell last segment, I'm the weird guy whose favorite scene in Jesus Revolution is when the LSD drops out of the sky from the crop duster. And the reason, but here's why. Because later in the movie, when you see Greg Laurie get converted, now it means something. It's not cheesy. It's not trite. That you see the stakes of depravity that he is called out of. And my favorite scene in God's Not Dead, I've told you guys this privately. I don't think I've ever said this to the audience, but my favorite scene in God's Not Dead is when Dean Cain's character goes to visit his mom, has a prophetic moment, considers for a second that she is speaking prophetically to him, and then just rejects it and goes about his day and drives off. Yeah. And the reason why that was my favorite scene is, again, that I thought that was the first time in a mainstream Christian film that we rejected the premise that everything had to be a Hallmark ending at the end. That there are real cosmic stakes we're playing for here. Yeah. And in a battle, you take punches, you take L's. In a battle, you take casualties. No matter if you're on the winning side or not, you don't walk out of there without any. We're going to have Good Friday on here in a few days. That's the ultimate casualty, right? All right, you're going to take an L every now and then. And in fact, the fact that you felt like it was okay to be honest with Christian audiences and mainstream audiences about that, I think was really a turning point, I thought, at the time in the making of faith-based movies. And then I think Unplanned went to a totally different level. And then I think this thing has a level kind of unto itself, for sure.
Well, the admonition, if today you hear his voice, harden not your heart, it's in there for a reason. Everyone gets an offer, and it's a question of whether you accept it or not. You know, it's all out there. All you have to do is want it. But there are so many that just, when the time comes and that offer is made, they turn away. And it's the Lord feels terrible about it, but it's up to them in the end. He's given us this whole free will thing. You know, the world would be a great place without free will, wouldn't it?
It would. Especially, sinners with free will becomes a very dangerous proposition, indeed. Let's go back to the beginning of this. I posted on my socials this morning, knowing now how it has turned out, I would not have wanted this to go any other way. The timing of when it's coming out is perfect. The experience for me on a personal level, I mean, this strengthened my marriage. It strengthened my faith. It made me even more calloused, tougher, more resilient. I mean, this has been, other than being a dad, nothing has made me grow up more as a Christian than going through the making of this film and this journey with you guys. And so I wouldn't change a thing. I wonder, though, I mean, I was kidding with you guys when we first started this. Hey, go online, go watch the making of documentaries of The Exorcist and The Omen, get an idea of what's coming your way from making this movie.
Yep.
I was kind of tongue-in-cheek when I was saying that, but, you know, knowing what you guys know now, if you could go back and warn, you know, idealistic Chuck and Carrie from 2020 embarking on this journey, what would you have changed anything now that you know how it ends?
I don't know that we were idealistic, Chuck. You got to realize in 2020 we just come off unplanned.
Yeah.
So we had been through this ringer once before. No, I don't think we. I mean, there are some things that had we known they were coming, we could have reacted a little bit. You know, when you're in the field, you'd always like to have 24 hours advance notice of what the enemy was doing to you, and
right.
You'd have time to react.
Yeah, but it doesn't work that way.
But it doesn't work that way. No, I think other than, I mean, from a personal standpoint, I'm weary at this point. I need about a 10-day rest at some point. But no,
I don't think
we
would
trust that we're in the Lord's will.
Yeah. I don't think we would have changed anything, you know, because it made our relationship grow. It made the relationship with the other people that were involved grow. It was a process of learning, you know, and like I said before, I don't believe in coincidence or karma or luck. This is all God. He takes you through the desert. But at the end, you know you're going into Israel, right? So how bad can it be as long as you keep going? I mean, I'll give the three of us credit in the sense that we kept falling forward. Okay, but you know, on a football field, if you keep falling forward enough, you're
gaining yardage.
Right,
yeah.
You're gaining yardage.
Yeah.
You know, and if a man is 6 feet tall, you're going to get first downs and you're going to end up scoring as long as you fall forward. And I think that's what he expected from us. And so, yeah, there were mistakes that we probably made or wasted money on this or that or, you know, or did something.
You can't, particularly in marketing, you know, one of the best, the guy who I believe understood the faith market best and still does is Michael Scott, who was one of the producers at Pureflix and who went through The God's Not Dead and all that. He understood the Christian demo better than anyone, I believe, on the business and marketing side. And he before we did Unplanned, he said, you're going to raise your marketing spend and you're going to go do it. And then afterwards, you're going to wonder which 50% you wasted. But you can't know that ahead of time. You have to go through it.
You have to do it.
You have to go through it.
But emotionally as well, you know, we needed, I think what the Lord does is because he knows you're in a battle, he kind of jabs you. You know, you're kind of sparring in a way. And he'll hit you.
Like Israel, one who wrestles with God.
Right.
Yeah.
And he'll, you know, jab, jab. And you get bang, bang. And you're like, well, I got to put up my guard and I got to do that. Well, he prepares you for battle against the devil. Ultimately, we know if he wants the victory, it's going to happen. And so I believe he wants the victory in this movie. I believe this movie is anointed. There's no way to get these reactions. People are losing their minds on the movie in a good way. So I think that if we had changed anything, it would be a foolish, mortal mistake.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't like going through what we went through. You went through stuff. We went through stuff. I mean, it was crazy. But now we have a story to tell.
We have all the crazy obstacles, but we get the miracles too. And the thing is, you tend to, you for lack of a better term, you endure the miracle. In other words, it happens, you process it. And then it's not that you forget about it, but then you're dealing with the crisis that the obstacle created. And that takes a lot more time and a lot more emotional energy. I mean, I'm guessing you've already spoken with your listeners about, like, 3 or 4 weeks ago, whatever it is now, the roof of our building got ripped off.
Yeah. Frankly, and I'd completely forgotten about that when 3 or 4 weeks ago, literally every movie that hasn't been released in the last 2 years decided to get released in our released window. Yeah. Those kinds of things. Yeah.
But at our facility where we worked, you know, there were only 2 things going on in that building: post-production on The Chosen and us. And the roof got ripped off. And that building has now been reduced to sticks. No drywall, no carpet, nothing. An indoor water park for one night.
But I will say, by the way, you know, when these things happen, you get up and you move on. You don't dwell on it. And it brings you to the next open door that he wants you to go through. So it's...
The thing about that was the most powerful to me in this whole experience is when talk of spiritual warfare, often in Christian circles, is of an ominous tone. And it's like the devil's the only one wielding any power in this equation. And to watch what God did to get us to this point, the things he made happen, the dots that we couldn't have connected on our own, I could think of off the top of my head, and obviously you guys would be the two names at the top of the list, but I could think of off the top of my head 20 people without whom this movie would not have happened. All right, that's quite a statement. Let me give you an example. You and I were going over people to call out yesterday, you know, for the crowd, VIPs. Totally on me. One name I forgot about is one of these names. A guy named Ryan Walters. And Ryan was on Glenn Beck's show this morning. He is the superintendent of Oklahoma schools. And when I was getting ready to bring my family down in December of 21 to the filming, and you guys called me and said, hey, we're here. Here's the next existential crisis with this strike and everything else. So, I mean, out of nowhere, I remembered there was this guy in my inbox, and I get hundreds of emails a day, guys. A guy in my inbox named Ryan Walters, who's a big fan of the show, who had just been appointed the Secretary of Education in Oklahoma, and wanted me, I would ask me for my thoughts on this or thoughts on that, and so I'd totally forgotten that I even knew what this guy's name was. I go into my inbox out of how many thousands of emails, dig it out, get a hold of this guy in an hour, and I'm able to, through him, get to the governor, the attorney general, and, enlist help for us to get this movie shot and finished. If I didn't know and have this relationship with this guy whose name I hadn't thought of in weeks, okay, there's just so many of those kinds of moments where you can see things that God put into place and then just played chess to move all of those pieces on the board into place to get us to checkmate and the completion of this film. I mean, I'm just, there's so many of those stories we could all tell like this. I'm just awestruck by that experience.
Our editor. I mean, when we were stuck for a great editor, he called into your show.
Yeah. Emailed the show. Yeah.
Emailed the show.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I know, of course, any responsible production is going to have their editor in place by now, but I'm just going to...
Right. Well, I think you guys might be irresponsible, so let me give it a shot.
But just in case you guys are totally incompetent
and losers,
and he was wonderful.
Well, I mean, the best part of that story was we fell in love with him, and the editor we had wasn't good, and then we hired another guy, but then he lost his mind, as people are apt to do in this process when the devil gets in their head. And out of nowhere, we really want this guy, he was tremendously enthusiastic and capable. And so we really...
Brian Jeremiah Smith is his name.
Yeah, and we love this guy. We want to work with him forever. And so out of nowhere, I mean, you tell me, coincidence or God? Out of nowhere, he says, I can't work. I'm working on the Netflix project, but I maybe could work an hour here and an hour there. That's how much he wanted to do it. So he wouldn't go to sleep. Netflix puts his show on hold, pays him for 2 months.
Puts him on paid hold because I know he's really good.
And then he works the whole show, the whole movie with us, okay? And then the day we're done, they restart the show. And he didn't ask them to do it because they wouldn't.
Right.
Now you can say that's a coincidence, or you can say, look, that's the hand of God. And literally did such an amazing job. Like you said, every person has their part to play in this. And like you were calling it a chess game, God beats the computer in the chess game.
Yes, he is algorithm incarnate.
Right.
Yes, yeah. Let's make sure we don't bury the lead, though, in the final section we have with you guys. I want to talk about the masterful job you guys did. I mean, you took my book and elevated that material. You made it better. I mean, I did my best to try to give Sean and Jordan as much credit the last 24 hours to their faces and to people that I would talk to around them as much as I could. And they were all very quick to defer to the work that you guys did with the script that you wrote. That laid the foundation. That was the plumb line for the production. That was kind of the template and the lodestar. And it's a masterfully written script. Everywhere I've taken the movie around the country, and everyone's first few comments are incredibly well written. Incredibly compelling dialogue. Never felt bored, even though much of the movie is two guys going back and forth. I mean, it's a magnum opus, guys. I mean, what you guys came up with in terms of this script it's just incredible.
Well, we appreciate that, because we respected your work, and your enthusiasm, your drive to get us to go for it is why we did it. And the Lord prompting us, because we tried to put it down 50 times, and we kept saying, oh yeah, we'll do it next week, that kind of thing. But I will say to your audience that if you listen to our dialogue right now and the things we're saying and see the movie, you will definitely think that could not be from these two guys. So where did that come from? It was the Holy Spirit. We were just willing tools. So, I give all credit to God and the book that you wrote. I mean,
you gave us a great character. The key is why this works is that had this been the adversary himself directly, who was a character, I don't think we could have done it. So you gave us a lieutenant of the adversary, and it's much easier to climb into, much easier to run.
Yeah.
And this guy whose ultimate goal then is the takedown of Western civilization. And then what we just needed to do was we needed to narrow down the scope of that, and put and confine it. Aristotle figured this out. Several thousand years ago. Ideally, you want your story to take place in one revolution of the sun. There's a reason why Die Hard takes place on Christmas Eve and doesn't extend to Christmas Day and the week afterwards, right? All things go back to the original Die Hard in our canon. So you want to compress it as much as possible and we put it in this arena environment. But that character is what allowed us to go do this thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a masterful stroke of work. And you look at it, timing is everything.
I've had a lot of people ask me what role they thought I played in the story you guys told, and I said I just really think I handed him a character that was a little bit like giving LSD to Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles. Okay,
we used it.
Yes, I think it just wow. There's new frontiers, all right. And instead of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, okay, you guys came back with Nefarious, Yeah. But the challenges in the midst of this. Like when you guys left, when we finished filming in Oklahoma or we finished filming in Dallas, did you have any idea that this thing was going to turn out as good as it did? Because it was so under the gun, constant threats. Are they going to get an injunction? Are we going to get shut down here? Are we going to have another walkout? Someone going to get sick? You guys going to almost die of COVID again? Okay, I mean, what's next? And so I wondered sometimes, are we like, that was a great take, let's move on, because the clock is ticking, right? Did you guys know that when we got to the end, wow, it's as good or even better than I thought it was going to be?
No, we ran away. I mean, I hate to say this, we were cowards. We finished, and we knew Sean and Jordan were great.
Right.
But that's not enough sometimes. You still need the footage. We had a crew of, let's say, 100 people, and with the strike thing, they did all these terrible things, immoral, totally spiritually evil, threatening families, the whole thing. We ended up shooting the rear of the movie with like 20 people.
A cinematographer that had never shot a film before.
Yeah, it was crazy. Never. It's crazy. But we felt called. The Lord told us, go to him. But when we were done, we took air because it knocked the tar out of us. We avoided going back into the editing room for a couple of months.
Afraid of what
we
was
were
there.
Afraid. I was, as a man, I was like, we failed, I don't understand it, and I don't, I can't go and look at this footage. We failed Steve, we failed we failed God. And, he let us wander a little bit, and then he put on my spirit, you're delaying your blessings. And it totally radicalized what I was thinking. What are you talking about, Lord? And we ran back into, and I'm telling the truth, we went back in and saw footage
that you don't remember shooting.
Right.
Yeah.
And
when I read my book, I see lines I don't remember writing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you do 3, 4, 5 takes, and we'd always have, it always came down, there was one piece of footage that we could use. It was literally everything we did was not good other than one piece of footage, and that piece got us to the next piece, to the next piece, and the next piece. And we watched the Lord construct the movie. And in the room, we started to cry because I said, how great that was. I mean, this is unbelievable.
There was no way for this stuff to come together, and it just did. It just did.
Yesterday, I'll leave you guys with this. Jordan and Sean sat in the 2 chairs that you guys are in today. And I think as whatever executive producer means, I am the most proud of what they said. In Jordan's case, he talked about his wife giving birth to their son on the first day of filming and the sudden shock of that and what do I do? And the amount of grace and love and support that he felt pastorally, communally, that he felt like he was welcomed into a family and into a community. And I mean, you guys, he really, by the production that you guys put together, he really felt the grace of God. Later in the interview, I asked, Sean kind of for his big picture thoughts on the movie. He said, it's the most important work I've ever done. And it's needed, and it's what this culture needs to hear right now. And he talked about the truth angle of it. And I brought this up earlier in the show. It's a Bible verse I used to quote a lot. John writes, "For the law came through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ." And the American church has wrecked itself in the last generation, putting grace and truth at loggerheads. That you have to do one at the expense of the other. And so we have to show God's love at the expense of standing for God's truth. And the culture has rejected that. They've heard every softer pitch we've had, every nice pitch we have, every gentle pitch we have. It hasn't moved anybody. And yet here, these two guys at different junctures. I mean, Jordan said this 30 minutes before Sean said his point. But the bookends of that interview, guys, where they said being a part of this movie is grace. Jordan talked about grace. Sean talked about truth. That's the fullness of Christ's mission. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. And those guys both felt to be receivers and or instruments of that based on the production that you guys put together. And I felt that was the best compliment we could possibly receive. And I think that's probably the best compliment I could possibly give you guys for what you have done here.
We appreciate it. Amen. All praise to the Lord. I will say, by the way, as a final thought, they were not in that place at the beginning of the show, of the movie. Both of them. I think grace and truth came on them, and I think they were anointed in the process as well. I believe the movie's anointed. I think you cannot go to see this movie and not be stirred spiritually. Mm-hmm. It's impossible.
That is true.
And so I think that they were also on their journey. Both of them basically were not believers. Mm-hmm. Now, Jordan spent last night talking to me about God and just all these men, and Sean as well.
Yep.
But a deep, not a petty thing. It was deep.
Yep.
In other words, like, how could this happen? And I saw the hand of God, and it's amazing.
Yep.
And so, just imagine what people who see the movie will be like. I mean, it's profound.
Chuck, you have any final thoughts?
Thanks for trusting us with your baby.
This has been like being a parent.
Yeah.
There's all the hope and joy when the child is born, and then as it grows older and starts making its own decisions and becomes its own thing, you start wondering, man, did I screw this thing up? Okay. Please don't mirror all my mistakes back to me, please. But I got to tell you, this has been for all the ups and downs. I wouldn't change anything. Because I think for us to truly appreciate what was accomplished here, it had to happen this way. And the tension that we felt getting to this point, that tension is felt in the film. And it's the right kind of tension because I think it encapsulates the tension that is happening in our culture right now. The darkness has never been more obvious, more prevalent. And nefarious is the same in the film. I mean, there is no disguise, there is no masquerade. It's out in the open, and you must choose which path. So, gentlemen, thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure, and it continues to be. Thank you very much.
Same here, Steve. Thanks for having us in.
You bet.
We appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. We'll come back, tell you more about last night's premiere. We'll get Todd and Aaron's thoughts back there in Des Moines as well. Take care. Stay tuned. Going about your daily life when you're living with pain is like walking uphill with a backpack full of rocks. That doesn't sound like fun. So that's why you want to talk to our friends over at Relief Factor. If you've been dealing with severe pain for too long, Relief Factor helps that pain go away. And you can try it today, the 3-week quick start. It's only $19.95. It isn't a drug, but it was developed by doctors to fight inflammation. So try the 3-week quick start for just $19.95. It's the trial pack. See if you don't see a difference in your chronic pain level and ability to manage it in 3 weeks or less when you go to ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com. Find out why about 70% of people who try the 3-week trial pack end up coming back and becoming permanent customers and ordering more at ReliefFactor.com, or call them at 800-4-RELIEF. That's the number 4. 800-4-RELIEF or ReliefFactor.com. For Relief Factor, feel the difference. So as we put a bow on what this experience was like down here in Dallas, some people I want to thank for making a special effort to come. My old boss, Senator Ted Cruz, and his dad, Raphael, who endorsed the original book. And I always forget to ask Raphael this, but I suspect that he is the mutual friend that Glenn Beck called me about several years ago when he first heard about the book that had introduced him to it. One of my best buddies and a former peer on the Cruz campaign, Congressman Chip Roy, he came. Another one of my peers on the Cruz campaign, Jason Johnson, came. I mentioned Ryan Walters. He is the superintendent of Oklahoma schools. Some of you saw him, I'm sure, on Glenn Beck's show this morning. He is on that list. It's a pretty long list of people. Man, if that person had not been there, if that person had not been there, if this person had not done this, if that person had not done that, this never gets done. This never gets made. And he's absolutely one of those people. Man, I'm gonna miss some other names of people that I definitely wanted to call out. Our colleagues here at the Blaze. I mean, Sarah Gonzalez, Ali Stuckey. Of course, Glenn came, but he's in the movie, so he kind of had to. But I think he would have came anyway. But they were very kind. Alex Stein came. Rob Eno, our good friend, which reminds me, guys, we got to get Rob on more overtimes. A lot of the support staff here at the Blaze came, had a chance to talk to a good deal of them. Our Mucky Mucks, Gaston Mooney and Tyler Carden were both here last night at the premiere as well. It's just, I mean, there was like 500 people. It's hard to remember everybody. I had to remind myself to go over and talk to my mom. All right, that's how packed this was yet last night. It was just an absolutely incredible experience. And I just, so many kind words from a lot of people I respect, people I want to earn the respect of. And that feedback is the most precious of them all. And so help me to remember that, gentlemen, on April the 14th when the movie comes out, so I don't go miserable over every box office report, because last night was a triumph. And it was just professionally the greatest night I've ever had in my professional career, and made all of this worth it. And the best part is I got to share it with all the people I care about the most. My family were here. All the kids were here. My mother-in-law and mom were both here. And Amy surprised me, got a limo ride for us to the premiere. I was just going to order an Uber. She got a limo. And it was, it's been an incredible last 36, 48 hours down here. And for those of you that have endured my incessant discussion of this film over the last several years, I bring you glad tidings of great joy, to paraphrase Aaron earlier. We're almost done. You won't have to hear about this maybe for much longer, but thank you for tolerating it. All the well wishes. So many of you have sent notes, and I know how anxious you are to see it. I got some numbers from some theater chains yesterday from our team in pre-sales. Like, we're outselling The Pope's Exorcist 2-1, Mafia Mama like 16-1. I mean, we're blowing these movies out of the water in pre-sales. Now, I don't know what that means for box office. You know, in a campaign, early voting can be a blessing or a curse, because you're not sure until Election Day, am I just cannibalizing the votes I was going to get on Election Day anyway, or am I expanding my base? But at least you know that your votes are in. At least we now know and have shown the theaters, hey, our people are showing up. They're coming. Find out how many there are, but they are absolutely coming to support this film. And the best part about it for me is I know what you don't know yet. It is worth your support. It will reward the faith you will put in it. It will do what you have wanted one of our movies to do, what you wanted this movie to do. It will go where you want it to go. It will push and prod where you've wanted it prodded and pushed. It will do that. And it will provoke the questions that this culture is struggling with to the right answers. It will go where you want it to go. It will not be packaged the way that maybe some of you are comfortable with, but it will be the conversation that this culture desperately needs to have. It's a hell of a film. It's not just a great worldview. It's not just a great morality play. It's a hell of a film. And I think that's what makes the morality play and everything else associated with even more impactful, is the craftsmanship itself. So I'm very proud of it. The experience has been incredible. And thank you to everybody that has been on this journey with me and made this journey possible.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's incredible, Steve. And having listened to the last couple of days of interviews between Sean and Jordan, and then today, Carrie and Chuck, I'm almost looking forward as much to the movie coming out on Blu-ray as I am the documentary or the making of or behind-the-scenes featurettes that are going to be in there, because it's been a fun experience or fun just listening time to those aforementioned figures. And I just think for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, hearing some of those accounts from Chuck and Carrie especially, and don't want to take away from anything that Sean and Jordan, because their experiences were incredible too. For those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, as is so many times the case in our personal testimonies, the hand of God moving is unmistakable. It's just usually in hindsight. And that's kind of the big takeaway that I had from listening to them talk. I mean, I just remarked to Todd while that conversation was going on, what's been the main thing even beyond COVID lockdowns, even beyond the denial of treatment that we talk about? What's been the main hanger-on of COVID? It is the jab hysteria. And yet, despite that jab hysteria, if it had not been for that, would you guys have had the editor that you had? Maybe some other way God would have moved.
Not at all.
Maybe some other way God would have moved. But if not for that, this movie would not be as good as it is. Let's just be honest about that. At least from the eyes that I have, or at least the my understanding of things. That's just one example. And I appreciated your remark in the middle of that conversation with Chuck and Carrie. It was something that I was trying to communicate yesterday, but I think you put a finer point on. We often put spiritual warfare in a box of the demonic. Yet so many times in this film, in the making of the things that you've made Todd and I privy to, the audience privy to, God opens doors, he finds a way, he keeps putting things in there, like dominoes falling, that we could have never imagined in a million years in our feeble-mindedness as fallen sinners. He keeps putting things in there that in hindsight, it is unmistakable. That's an example of the other side of the spiritual battle, which is undefeated and will be undefeated in history. We just have to recognize that. And I appreciated your comment to that effect.
Chuck and Carrie's.
Are you lathered up? Are you lathered up after that now, Todd? Have you been able to come down after that, listening to that conversation?
It's amazing, and I do want to talk about The Exorcist. To come to a point that I've made long ago. Why did Steve and Chuck and Carrie, and even the actors, if we had more time to ask them, and ask why did it? What's the truth behind this? Why did this turn out the way that it did? Listen, bringing Exorcist to the set has everything to do with it to me. Not just for the protection they offered, but it's a sign of what you understand, really, at the end of the day, your faith is about. You ask modern-day Catholics about exorcists, and most of them will tell you, oh, you know, times are different, we've moved on, you're going to get a taste of that in the movie. Just wait. And this is why, as a father raising my children, as soon as my daughters, who weren't just the adorable little ones, getting late into elementary school, only one of them made it into middle school without watching The Passion of the Christ, because once I saw sin entering into their minds and hearts and souls in a way that it starts to when they get a little older and they start to ask questions and maybe get a little bit more cynical, and mom and dad aren't trusted on everything automatically. I wanted them to see what evil looks like, what it does to you, but what good does in response and guarantees the win. Bringing exorcists are why not only this movie is possible, but why Unplanned is possible, why God's Not Dead is not possible. They're not playing reindeer games, all right? As I've told you before, and this is my point, they made these movies because they understand that this is not a PG faith. This is a rated R faith. And going forward, Steve talked about this being an end, but I believe, and I've been saying this for a while, that no, I believe this is a beginning. This is where revival starts. It changes our sense of who we are when we go to church and kneel before God, and then what we do. Because people who do shows like ours and businesses like ours and the right, whatever that is, for a long time, they just don't understand what real evil is. I think, once The Exorcist is 6th grade, 7th grade, pick that year. Kids start getting cynical and asking questions, and then we soft soap it all the more, and we start pulling our punches, and just please stay. That's the time we should say, this whole year you're spending your time with an exorcist. That'll bring you to Jesus right quick. We got to ask ourselves on the right, whatever that is, in business and politics, politicians, that Braveheart line, well, we didn't get dressed up for nothing. What are we doing here? Because Chuck and Carrie and Steve knew what they were doing making this
selling
movie.
T-shirts.
None
selling
of that crap. There's real evil. Get busy living or get busy dying. This isn't just an end. This is a beginning.
I should mention, that'll preach, brother, right there. That'll preach right there. I should mention, because I'm going to forget people, so forgive me in advance. Our buddy Tim Young came to the premiere last night. Him and his wife Alex. We had a chance to hang out with them. Amy and I did in Phoenix at America Fest. Got to know them really well, and I loved what Tim said about the movie. I offered him screeners multiple times. He's like, nope, I want to see it at the premiere for the first time in a theater, and he goes, this is about the best compliment I could possibly give, man. It's a real movie. It's a real movie, you know? It's like it's the best religious movie maybe other than The Passion I've ever seen. It's a real movie. And for you guys, you know why that means a lot to me, because in many respects this movie is kind of like our show, right? Is it a conservative show? Is it a Christian show? I don't know. Is it a good show? Is it good? If it's good, listen. If it's not, then don't, you know? Is it a horror movie? Is it a psychological thriller? Is it a Christian movie? Is it a faith-based movie? I don't know. Is it a good movie? You know, and from the beginning of this show, I've just rejected that premise. My premise has been, I'm just going to do the best and most entertaining. I love Rush. None of us would be here without him. But this is maybe a bit of a generational difference. I'm fine being described. I'm fine with being labeled an entertainer. He was not. But I can see why. He was trying to break a mold and shatter a glass ceiling, and he viewed it as reductionism, and he's right. They were trying to reduce the potency of his intellectual capacity and just essentially put a court jester hat on him. So I understand completely why he pushed back. But in my case, thanks frankly to the ground laid by people like him, I now, to come full circle, don't mind being an entertainer, because if it's not good, it doesn't matter what I have to say if it's not good. I'm an entertainer. That is what I am. I do infotainment. I try to do it prophetically, small p. I don't have a specific anointing or title. Okay. Small p, just telling God's truth. That's the, traditional term, biblical definition of term, prophetic, unless you're talking about an anointed office of a specific prophet. But I want it to be good. And if it's good, then if you're more inclined to listen to the worldview behind it than you are if you're not. Then you aren't if it's not. Same thing with our movie. We didn't sit down and say, let's get this issue in there. Let's make sure we interject that in there. It really was, how do we make the best movie we can possibly make? And then there was no way it wasn't going to feature our worldview, because we're all bringing the same worldview or variations of the same worldview to the table. So of course that was going to get highlighted. But first and foremost was, did we make a good movie? And for Tim to pull me aside last night and to say, dude, that's just a really good movie. It's a real movie. That's one of the best compliments we've been given, I think, yet. Because it shows we just told a good story. It just so happens to be based upon the greatest story ever told. And I think that's a lesson for us now that we're more pilgrims than patriots moving forward. A lot of us are going to learn for the first time in modern American history now what it means to be a stranger in a strange land. Pre-pilgrims at Plymouth Rock, people who identified as Christians or Jews, frankly, were kind of used to being in the intellectual ghettos, cultural ghettos of civilizations, being kind of the, who are those guys? The insurgents. Not a lot of examples. People who were either Jewish or Christian in that they were adherents to the book, or people of the book, as the Muslims would say, had hegemony in a culture, dominance in a culture, the default setting, benefit of the doubt setting in a culture. We're losing that now. We are fully heading into a post-Christian era, and we're going to learn what that's like again. It's just for us, we're going to learn it for the first time. And we can learn lessons, small t tradition here from the evangelical. We can learn lessons from our forefathers. One thing they did was excellence. They did their jobs excellently. They served excellently. So that when they were condemned, everyone knew why. It wasn't on a technicality. It was because they failed to bow the knee to the spirit of the age. And that would be our encouragement to you. Whatever you're in, whatever pursuit God has you in, do it excellently to the best of your God-given ability for his glory. Thank you all for tuning in. Buy, sell, or hold is coming your way in the overtime for subscribers. For the rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow. I'll be back in Des Moines then. John 3:17.